The sound of dragging footsteps above me made my blood run cold. I was alone in the house, or at least I thought I was. It was a large old Victorian house that I had fallen in love with the moment I saw it. The high ceilings, spacious rooms, and beautiful garden were everything I had ever dreamed of in a home. It felt like a sanctuary, a place where I could finally feel safe and secure. But that night, the silence was shattered, and my dream home became a source of terror. The house had been empty for years before I moved in, and there was a certain stillness to it that I found comforting at first. The quiet was a welcome change from the noise of the city, but as the days turned into weeks, the silence began to feel oppressive, almost suffocating. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. One evening, as I was reading in the living room, I heard a distinct thump from the floor above. It sounded like something heavy being dragged across the floor. My heart skipped a beat and I froze, listening intently. The sound stopped and I tried to convince myself it was just the wind. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The next day, I found a small scratch on the hardwood floor in the hallway. It looked like it had been made by something sharp, like a claw. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself it was probably just the movers who had brought in my furniture. But the scratch was fresh, and there was no way they could have made it without me noticing. As the days passed, the strange occurrences continued. Doors would creak open on their own, objects would disappear and reappear in different places, and I would often catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye. I started to feel like I was being watched, like someone or something was always there, just out of sight.
You know, strange things have always happened in that house. It's like the walls have a life of their own.
The nights were the worst. Lying in bed, I would listen to the sounds of the house, my imagination running wild. Every creak, every groan, every rustle of leaves outside my window sent shivers down my spine. I would lie awake for hours, staring into the darkness, waiting for something to happen. One night, I was awakened by a loud crash from downstairs. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. I could hear footsteps moving around in the kitchen.
Nobody wants you here.
I grabbed my phone and called the police, but by the time they arrived, whoever had been in my house was gone. They found no signs of forced entry and nothing seemed to be missing. The police suggested that I might have imagined the whole thing, that it was just a dream. But I knew what I had heard, and I knew I wasn't crazy. There was something in my house, something that didn't want me there. One afternoon, I was working in my home office when I felt a presence behind me. I turned around slowly, but there was nothing there. But as I turned back to my computer, I saw it, a reflection in the screen of a figure standing in the doorway. It was tall and thin, with long dark hair and eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. The feeling of being watched intensified. I would often feel a cold spot in the air, or a sudden sense of unease, as if someone was standing right behind me. I started to avoid certain areas of the house, especially the attic and the basement. There was something about those places that made my skin crawl. I screamed and jumped out of my chair, but the figure was gone. I ran out of the room and down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't stop running until I was outside, in the bright sunlight. I stood there for a long time, trying to catch my breath and calm my nerves. I knew I couldn't stay in that house any longer. It was no longer a home, it was a prison. A prison where I was constantly being watched, tormented by an unseen presence.